After the Amphibia retrospective left me like a dying husk at the end of editing and a certain overlord keeping me from being able to show it to my viewers, which was a pleasant experience, I decided to take about a week off from making a video and decided to focus on my studies at college. During this time, I decided to think about my plan for the rest of the year's videos I had. So I had 4 videos planned in mind, though we're going to see 3 of those later down the line. But for now, I want to talk about this game franchise I got into during 2021. Metroid is a series I really enjoy. I may like some games over others, but most of these games are just fun. My first introduction to the series was Super Metroid on my Super Nintendo Classic in 2017 before I sold it, where I got up to Kraid and gave up. I was more into Super Mario World and Mega Man X than Super Metroid. It wasn't until 2021 where I played Metroid Fusion where I really took a liking to this gameplay style. I only played like 5 hours of Hollow Knight and an hour of Super Metroid before then, so finishing this game felt rewarding. It was then I followed the rest of the series where I finally became a Metroid fan, where I love or enjoy nearly every game in the series. So I wanted to talk about the series, but then we reached a problem. I had to play Metroid on NES. I remember playing this before. I found the experience okay at first, but then really started to lose steam near the end. So what I think of my most recent playthrough? Let's find out. Now, a story in a NES game is like gameplay in a walking simulator, non-existent. There is some text to explain the story there is, some in the intro and some in the manual. In the distant future, a notorious gang of space pirates have laid siege to the Galactic Federation, capturing an energy-sucking parasite known as a Metroid from a Galactic Federation research expedition. Using beta rays to clone the Metroid, the space pirates intend to raise an army of Metroids to overthrow galactic civilization. The Federation gets worried, obviously, because, they just stole a parasite, and contacts Samus Aran, the greatest space hunter in the galaxy, to infiltrate the pirate stronghold on planet Zebes, eradicate the Metroid menace, and defeat the leader, Mother Brian. Now, this isn't the greatest story ever told, even in Metroid. It is the beginning and sets up everything, and I don't expect much from an NES game, because, like I said, a story in an NES game is non-existent. Now, the OST in Metroid is something alright. Now, personally, I don't go out of my way to listen to NES songs or 8-bit arrangements, because game OSTs that are 16-bit or below don't really stick with me that much, unless your name is Mega Man. The soundtrack for Metroid doesn't really work for me. The main theme is iconic, and I would say that's good, but every other track sounded so drab and depressing for me that I didn't really enjoy it, and there's not enough songs, so it needed more variety. The visuals in this game are something to see with your own eyes. Nowadays, the best looking games on Nintendo consoles are going to be from Nintendo themselves, with Luigi's Mansion 3 and the Splatoon games being the best example. But back in the day, I would say that Capcom really do how to make good use of the hardware, making the games look visually appealing, which is why back in my Mega Man X review, I considered Mega Man 6 to be the best looking NES game. Metroid, on the other hand, is a game where it doesn't look that good, even compared to games that came out before it, like Super Mario Bros. And The Legend of Zelda. The game always has a solid black background and doesn't really work. Mega Man 1 came out the same year and has different colored backgrounds. The game also often reuses tiles and just changes the colors of them. And the Samus model is memed on a lot because of the size of the head compared to her scrawny looking body, and I have to agree. Honestly, I think Metroid could have done better on the visual side of things. Moving on, let's talk about the gameplay. Metroid is a non-linear 2D platformer. Think of it like a mix of Mario and Zelda, but Zelda had a gun. Now, Samus is like Mega Man where she jumps and shoots. Jumping with Samus feels off. I feel the need to hold the jump button to get good height in this game. The screw attack is something I also take issue with. The screw attack is a great item, but by about one tile above the ground while you're still doing the animation, Samus will just stop doing it, and it's infuriating. And during the 1 second you're off the ground, both in starting and finishing attack, you're very vulnerable. Given how the screw attack is very useful, it's kind of baffling that this was okay by the higher-ups. But being able not to shoot while playing downwards is a crime. Now, I can live with not shooting while crouching, since that was something that wasn't possible until Contra a year later. But the bombs are your only way, which isn't a problem if the bombs did enough damage. You need at least 3 bombs to kill them, and it's just too much, and bombs aren't really a attacking tool, it's a way to unlock shortcuts. Now, let's talk about exploration and level design. Now, what makes a Metroidvania fun is finding upgrades and finding them to get new stuff. Now, with Metroid on NES, it really doesn't have many upgrades that are used to get new stuff like in most of the other games. You use the Ice Beam and High Jump boost most of the time, bombs are mostly used for shortcuts, and that's really about it. The level design is not that good either. It seems that Metroid made a few sections of a dungeon and just copied and pasted them over and over again. If you need proof, I have 2 in this instant. This section in Ridley's hideout and the escape sequence. In Ridley's lair, there are 2 hallways copy and pasted, and in the escape sequence, they seem to copy the platforms a million times, and with the limited colors the game uses, it makes mentally mapping each area a hassle. The worst part of the game, in my opinion, is the energy farming. When you die in Metroid, you're left with 30 energy, which is your health bar, and so you have to farm for energy, and it's the most boring part of the game because you are just standing there waiting for the enemy to drop a piece of energy, and it gets old really quick. Take this example at the end of the game. I died during the Metroid Brian boss, and it took me about 30 minutes just to get enough energy to fight her. Another thing I should mention is that there is no save feature in this game. Now, I think passwords are not reliable because you have to write it down and then use it if you want to replay it, but Metroid would have made a save feature like Zelda bearable for the game. This was a thing in Japan and not in North America. Now, I know it has to do with Metroid and Zelda being on the Famicom disk drive, which wrote save data directly to the game disk, but if they were able to put a save feature in the US version of Zelda, why couldn't they do it with Metroid? And this was back when, like, Zelda wasn't as popular as it is right now. The bosses in Metroid are a joke. With Ridley, you can just stand in front of him and just spam missiles till he dies. Kraid, you can do the same thing, but slightly different. He can shoot needles out of his body. What a twist! Mother Brian is the only boss in this game that actually feels like a Metroid boss. The area overwhelms you with fire rings, and you must try to avoid them while shooting Mother Brian to kill her. It's engaging because you don't want to die after all that energy farming you had to do! Then you have an escape section where you have, in my opinion, too much time to get out, and you get to the ending where Samus takes off her suit. Overall, I really didn't enjoy my time with Metroid. While the story is more than what I normally expect from an NES game and Mother Brian is a good boss fight, I think the bad things outweigh the good in this scenario. The controls don't feel that good, the exploration and level design are way out of whack, the OST could have used more variety, and the energy farming is so bad, plus the weird decision to not give the game a save feature that it makes me not want to play this game ever again. If you really want to play this game, you can play it on the Nintendo Switch NES online service, but for my money, I'd say go and play Metroid Zero Mission, the remake of Metroid 1. Well, that should be it for today. Join me next time where I talk about Mega Man X2. If you liked today's video, consider leaving a like and subscribe for more. Be sure to follow me on Twitter and Letterboxd, link in the description. Until then, I'm Avatar Aiden, and I will see you next time.